Hello and welcome to Learning with Mike, where we learn how to build wealth from the ground up. Today I originally wanted to discuss how millionaires make a lot of money and what their secrets are to build wealth, but since today was AMC's second quarter's earnings, I wanted to highlight a little bit of what they had on their call. The first thing that I wanted to highlight was that AMC beat their earnings estimates, and as their CEO Adam Aron said,
AMC crushed it.
So analysts expected the earnings per share to be minus 0.91, and then what they actually did was they beat those expectations by doing it minus 0.71. So their earnings were actually better. So key factors that contributed for this was rising attendance in the movie theaters, increased ticket prices, soaring food and beverage revenues per person, relentless focus on cost containment, and pruning of marginal theaters from their network that weren't making money. The second point I wanted to highlight was that they ended with a stronger balance sheet. So in Q2, they raised another $1.25 billion of fresh equity capital, and they ended their Q2 with $2 billion liquidity. That's cash in the bank and undrawn revolver. So to me, what does that mean? It means that shorts beware, because AMC is not going to go bankrupt like a lot of people expected. When the pandemic first hit, a lot of people thought that AMC, same things with GameStop, right? These companies were going to be crushed, so they shorted a lot of their shares. So with the expectation that shorts would win when a company goes bankrupt. But because they've been able to raise a lot of liquidity, they've been able to raise cash, they've improved their financials actually they're in a much better position now than they were before, in my opinion. For point number 3, I wanted to highlight that they had stronger operating statistics. For example, in the US, overall ticket admissions compared to 2019 pre-pandemic, Q1 2021, they were at 13% of what they were in 2019. By Q2 2021, they were 29%. And by Q3 2021 so far, they are at 45%. Likewise, the capacity utilization versus the 2019 numbers are also showing an increasing trend. So for Q1 2021, they were 41%. By Q2, they were 61%, and by Q3 2021, it's 68%. So what I see here is that definitely AMC is becoming stronger and stronger. It's more healthy. More people are going to the movies, and they're spending more time and money there. So by the pandemic, when the beginning, it was only 13%, so a lot of people were still hesitant. Obviously, he did talk about vaccination rates have helped a lot, and he encouraged people to get vaccinated. So that's not only to protect their families, their friends, themselves, but also it helps the economy and the whole nation in general. They next highlighted the operating statistics in Europe, where overall ticket admissions increased from 2% in Q1 to 18% in Q2 and 57% so far in Q3. Capacity utilization also increased just like in the US. So Q1 it was only at 53%, Q2 was 56%, and Q3 was at 69%. For highlight number 4, they laddered their debt. So they meant that they don't have any debt maturity until 2023. And most maturities of their debt won't happen until 2026. So why is that important? Because it gives them time. So time is very important because it allows them to deleverage their company, strengthen their balance sheet, and refinance with better terms in the future when it's not like a pandemic. For highlight number 5, AMC discussed how they were going on the offensive with 10 points. The first point that they discussed was how they got 2 new leases to be added, and specifically was the Grove and the Americana in LA. These were the second and fifth highest grossing theaters in LA, and they're soon slated to be opening, I think, in August. Additionally, they discuss how they picked up 10 new theaters, and 8 of them were from the former Arlec Pacific. So that was more than they had anticipated they were able to do. So the second point they highlighted was that in 2021, they're about to open a dozen or so new theaters around the world that were under construction before COVID hit. For point number 3, they discussed how they're listening to retail investors. And that to me is actually very good, because not only are they willing to listen to our feedback, and actually they're already implementing them. For example, they discussed how the investors had discussed putting concert movies, sporting events, and esports in the theaters, and they are all actively trying to pursue those. So for example, for the concert movies, they have Chance the Rapper and Halsey later in August, and they already had 2 UFC matchups, I think they were in June or July, that drew significant attendance. So they're also now trying to get the rights to other sporting events, but I know that can be expensive, so I'm sure they're trying to negotiate better terms. Esports would be an interesting opportunity, specifically how they discuss potentially partnering with GameStop. So I do see esports is pretty big. They, everything from, the Dota tournaments, Overwatch, Fortnite, Valorant, everybody's watching these things, and there is a big fan base. There are a lot of esports, and it keeps growing. I do see it as a potential good revenue source for AMC to tap into this. The fourth point they were discussing really excited me, and that was that they will soon be accepting Bitcoin by the end of the year. He discussed how he had the opportunity to understand a little bit more of the blockchain technology, and he's now confident in accepting this and exploring other crypto. So he said, intelligently pursue further serious involvement with cryptocurrency. And man, imagine if they're able to accept Dogecoin in AMCs in the future, that would be huge for Dogecoin. That's kind of like the goal for Dogecoin to be used. That's what Elon Musk is talking about. So if people are able to use it more as a currency, then that would be amazing. For point number 6, they discussed a little bit more about AMC Investor Connect and how their goal was to improve communications with the people who own AMC. They've given us full stop benefits, and they have given us access to advanced screenings as well. And their first one was the Sony Pictures, forget the title, but it's the Escape Room, the sequel for the Escape Room one. And then they've also given us discounts. So, we all got that free popcorn, but they're going to continue to improve their AMC Investor Connect. And I do believe that they do want to hear from us. And from the previous points where they are trying to implement our ideas, I do think this is great. For point number 7, he kind of talked about how he's been tweeting and he's listening to our feedback. He actually writes his own tweets and he reads all the inbounding messages, which kind of again ties to the point that they are listening to us and they are making those changes. Just the fact that they wanted to raise more capital initially and there was some hesitation from the investors, they just decided not to put that to the vote, So they are listening to us, which to me it's really great. For point number 8, they did increase ticket prices by 5% or about 50 cents across the board, but this will help their bottom line and have better revenue and help the general health of AMC. So I think that was okay. Point number 9, I thought was huge also. This was a really big point, which they discussed exclusive theatrical windows. They talked about their partnership with, I think it's Universal. And then now that they've reached a new agreement with Warner Brothers to show all their movies until 2022 with that exclusive 45-day theatrical window. That's big because HBO Max was showing a lot of those movies that they were streaming simultaneously on the theater, and it was available through their streaming platform. But now it seems that they're working very hard with not only Warner Brothers, but a lot of the other studios to go back to a theatrical window. And I do think that they also discussed the point that, a lot of naysayers were saying how streaming platforms were going to take over and they were going to kill theaters. And his point was, throughout history, they said that about radio. They said that about TV. They said that about Blu-ray, DVDs, right? So I do think that theaters will stay. It's not something that we would replace necessarily. A lot of us have fond memories of going to the movie theater. I know mine was The Lion King. That was the first movie I ever watched in theaters, and it was beautiful. It was an amazing experience. So I don't necessarily think that they will be replacing it entirely. So I am very excited to see that, Warner Brothers did reach an agreement about that exclusive theatrical window. And the last point is also potentially huge if you have AMC and are looking for that squeeze, is that he wants to propose to the board that all senior executives in AMC maintain an ownership stake in AMC, because that will align the interest with investors, which makes sense, right? If they have a stake in ownership, then, they want to perform better. So for himself, he said he would say 8 years of his salary, which he equated to about $12 million worth, which is pretty crazy. For the CFO, it would be 6 years of his salary. The executive VP would be about 4 years of his salary. And for the senior VPs, it would be 2 years of their salary. This would be good for us because, like he said, it does align the top leaders of the company, their incentives with the investors. Lastly, they went over some of the questions that we had. I could make another video talking about those if they're interested, but the main one, the biggest question that people wanted to know was about dividends, whether they could or they were planning to give out dividends. And the answer quickly was that they did have some debt commitments that doesn't allow them to do that just yet. And it'll be maybe like a year or so before they're able to consider that. I will also be linking the actual quarterly report financials that you saw me earlier kind of like highlight some of their numbers. That way you can look at them yourself. So if you are an investor, I would encourage you to actually start digging deeper, understanding those financials yourself, and learning how to read those financial charts. If you want to know more, I can help as well. If you have any questions, just put them down below and I'll be happy to help. If you want to learn more about wealth, investing, real estate, or entrepreneurship, please subscribe, like this video, and hit the notification bell. It really does help, especially since I just started. I have a lot of experience that I want to share with you, and I would really appreciate that. And I hope to see you on the next episode.